where they got it to. I think they got it out behind the shed, and I just let it go. Enjoy.
They earn
They
those 6
absolutely
months.
did.
Yeah.
They absolutely did.
But it's
They
cool
are
because
focused when they want to
I
eat.
can, the problem is that it's hard to consistently be where you want to be. Now, I'm sure my teacher does have students do recitals. I haven't done a recital. Yeah, no, I think the typical music lessons recital, you might have half a dozen or a dozen.
I don't know what.
Maybe I should ask about that. I don't know if it's really easy. I don't really want to do it. Oh, good. And I'm a music group, and I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Especially since, like this time around, I'm one of only 2 tenors. Wow. Yeah. So the responsibility is there.
Right. They have
There are 2 basses and 2 tenors.
How big is the group overall?
What's that?
How big is the group overall?
So it's quite a split of alto and soprano.
We've got
That's impressive on the tenor. The funny thing is that I think a lot of times, like with the sopranos, we did find that the music that we had, some of the women said, I'm soprano too. I guess that would be a third down from soprano if it's in the music that way. Things like that. Most of the time with the 2 tenors, and I think with our musical director, she sort of thinks what should you find that there are, you see, like there'd be a chord with 3 notes, so should we really split the tenors? A lot of times the bass is in the same range as the tenors do. So I think, for one thing, sometimes one of the tenor notes is duplicated by the alto. Anyway, sort of, maybe not strictly in the same octave, but it's already there.
get out to Old and make right. Don't go to and he's not open on Sunday or Monday.
It's really
He sells the full line.
I do find that, yes, transitions can be brutal, especially going from chest to and I think it is harder to go from low to high.
They sell food.
Or do you, I guess it could be pretty hard to go from high to low. Yeah, not to well, for one thing, you have to be able to find it. It's like one of the things I find that it seems like a lot of singing music that just keep changing. Wow. Yeah. I know. Yeah. Sometimes it's not nice. It was just recently that I was watching on television where somebody said this music, somebody who admired Anya, the Irish musician, they played a part. That was really quite beautiful. Because it's unexpected. And it's clean and all that. And Eucharistic. Yeah, but sometimes you're just another excuse to repeat a couple pages of music.
I think doing so well in the new school. Space and eat work. And that's Jenny.
Have you ever heard of a piece of music called Calvary? Written by somebody named Joe Marks. It's kind of like, it's another one of it. It's got like 10 songs and it's got narration. It's a cantata. That's
a agenda, whatever, appointment, boards in it.
I mean, I know
I'm here filling out my taking steps back.
Oh, and I have left my translation it's how old is it? Tedious osteoporosis will and take a pill form, or you can have injection
Still in codes.
And eventually you get it out.
I meant to ask, but I didn't.
We planned on.
Yeah, even though, yeah.
Oh my God.
Felt like it. How are you? So good to see you. Thank you for coming. Why didn't you come up and sing with us?
I don't know, I should have.
Yeah, you love to sing.
Yes, I hadn't taken voice lessons and I tried all the time.
Yeah, good for you. What, are you going to join a choir?
I'm in a church choir.
Nice. What kind of music do you sing?
I
Oh, nice. How many people in the choir? That's perfect. Oh, right? Right? It was ever thus. There's always a shortage of tenors.
Right. I mean, it's responsibility.
That's great. Are you enjoying the lessons? Nice. So you keep your voice nice and limber. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been practicing.
No, I agree. I mean, I listen. I do too.
Yeah, I want to be like I'm awkward.
Oh yeah. I find.
Just like coming in, that's the main reason.
And Suji really works. And like the last couple of years, working with Marilyn, it's kind of like whatever, She was tired. She did it for 30 whatever years.
Yeah, she didn't want to try something adventurous.
Right. And so we, but I can sort of read. If I hear the first note, I know where to go.
Even if you can read, sometimes holding your own on the first read is very difficult.
Yeah. And Kelly and I are the altos. But if Kelly decides not to sing the harmony, then it's me. And as Mark said, I couldn't hear you. I'm a soprano. I'm a second soprano. I really am. Right. But I'm became alto because I never had one.
I don't think there's such a thing as alto.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Our daughter's in a chorale up in Montreal, but they do it by number, and there's
It's all women.
it's all women, so it's alto 1, alto 2. They have a 3 and a 4, which are really baritone based. But I'm like, wow, yeah. And the choir director is very, very musical. I mean, in a way that transcends whatever. And she uses all of the parts to the best. And I think the music is very challenging. So, and a lot of it's a cappella. But it was slow.
Oh, wow.
No, thank you.
I guess when
No, it was slower because we had the family. When the Western show was the dad family. But the later
It makes me feel like I'm teaching.
Yeah, well, like a couple of pieces we're working on right now, and to a certain extent, I kept having to switch from my chest voice to my, and I'm not singing enough. Like we have rehearsal every Thursday, and then we sing today. I will not open my mouth until Thursday. Just about once upon a time, I sang all the time, walking around the house, doing the dishes. I don't do that anymore. Okay. So that flexibility I used to have. And I'm old.
tricky. It's tricky. Mark was telling me about
Yeah.
my teacher says that the tenor
They are.
sharp and hopefully not above G. Although sometimes when we're doing this, we try to do something. Believe it or not, I think falsetto. That's like part of the note. Like,
Good afternoon, Grace.
falsetto.
Good afternoon.
Then you have more, if you're going, you're getting out.
Yeah.
Grace's annual meeting.
Hello.
Think that you can hear me. I've been told I've been pretty quiet. We got a lot to cover, but we're also very conscious of the time. So, welcome to everyone who was logged in to online here for our live stream. download the annual meeting booklet online if you're there, and people here have copies available to them. I'm going to hand it over to Hal for
Yep.
our opening prayer.
So, promoting the prayer book, here is a lovely prayer from 8:18 for a church convention or meeting. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with us who take counsel for the renewal and mission of grace and your wider church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory, guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Good. Thank you. Before we begin, I'm going to ask nicely if we have a volunteer to be a clerk for today's meeting. In the past several years, Cecilia has done this as a warden, and I've never thought it was appropriate for someone on vestry or as a warden to be also a meeting taker.
So read my minutes really carefully, folks, that's all I'm saying.
So if you did download your minutes from last year, you know it was 5 pages. And luckily, there will be a live stream here for backup,
Thank you, Kate.
for note taking. But I'm hoping someone will step up to the plate before we officially begin.
This meeting.
But if not, I'm going to sit down. And the meeting will end.
I don't mind doing it if that's appropriate.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Anybody need a
I'll even talk
report?
slower if you want me to. I can't.
It'll give me
I can't.
practice for more meetings.
I can't. You can't guarantee the rest of the
I
group
need
here.
You need
All
a
right.
pen, Lori?
I have one. Thanks. I think I'm good.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
So here's our first half of the agenda. So right now we have our 2025 vestry nominees. I don't have a slate in front of me. Do you have that?
Yes. So, does everybody have a packet? So we have our slate here on the second page, we have the agenda here. And then on the second page, here's our vestry slate. Cecilia is re-upping again to be warden, although she finishes her first term today, she's re-upping again. So she will be on for the next 2 years to 2027. Darrell re-upped for a year last year, which we're grateful for. And Graham Goulian is has put his name forward to be fill Darrell's 1-year position, so it's 2026. For the vestry, Ann Barringer Spade, Kelly put her name in for an extra year, which we appreciate. And so Ann is putting her name in and taking it year by year, and so that will be 2026. Allison Ford, thank you, putting her name in, and Mary Beth Osgood, who is finishing her term today, but wants to stay on the vestry, and we're grateful for that. So she's putting her name forward as well. And what's very exciting, well, there's a lot that's very exciting. There's a lot that's very exciting here with the slate. But what was not anticipated in the bylaws, and people are thrilled that this is happening, is we actually have two people that have signed up. You may know that some of the bylaws require people from either St. Paul's or Trinity. And so we now have 2 people that have neither affiliation because they joined Grace since the merger. So I want to thank Allison and Ann for that. And that's a wonderful sort of statement of where Grace is going. Anything else, Joe?
We have to
Tell her.
tell us.
Nomination, tell her the person who counts for the votes.
Can that be the clerk? We don't have our typical person who kind of
Tam
supports
keeps
all
us
of
out
our
of trouble.
administrative and legal functions, but we believe that we're hoping that our clerk can also be our teller, who has to do the count of the votes when we finally make our nominations and voting.
You
Is
didn't
that right,
tell me
Sue?
this was gonna involve numbers.
Alright, I feel
I'm
you.
just putting it out there.
Well, you don't have
Hey,
to
you got past
count
kindergarten,
over 30,
good.
it looks like.
Okay, I'll do my best, y'all.
Okay,
Alright.
you got
We're in the forgiveness and love business, remember.
Report of the minutes.
It's 5 pages, I'm sorry, but I have to say that, having the recording, online was a blessing, because I looked at that like 2-3 times. So you now have a 5-page report. So for the ones who were able to read it when it was released electronically, you've done the hard work already.
Any corrections that anybody can see? We obviously look at it ourselves ahead of time.
No, but I'll just say, I got it in advance, it was very confusing what was going on.
Confusing with the minutes, or
Yeah.
why were you getting the minutes?
Because I didn't put this together, it's like, okay, there's the agenda for today, 25, and then here's the report, and I just wasn't familiar with the idea
Gotcha.
of getting, so I thought, oh, is this the report for this year? They mistakenly put.
Right, the
24.
wrong date.
Yeah.
So we could have clarified that, what we always do is we'll have the minutes of the last meeting at the next official meeting, which is this one, so it's a report out. And part of it is for recollection, so we have a record of what was done.
I have to
But what is lovely is we also have it on,
No, I know, I just got confused.
online.
Yeah, I think that, so the reason is,
Yeah, go for it.
is how.
Because later on, then there's the priest report for 2024, I'm like, and then you start talking about things from this year, so I'm confused again.
Well, so remember, most of the annual meeting is gonna be about a review of what we did the last year. So now that we're in 2025, we're gonna talk about 2024. And to relieve a little bit of anxiety perhaps, is that those of us standing up, and you're gonna hear again and again, it's like, well, I said it in my report, so please feel free to read that in detail, because we're just gonna highlight a few things. But because we're in February at our meeting, really the beginning of the year, in my report, I talk a little bit about what's coming, because I lay out goals for 2025.
Right.
So, but most are gonna talk about what was accomplished for last year. So any thoughts on or changes to minutes? Okay, Allison's saying good to go.
Good to go?
So Beth is
I have
out.
the motion to accept the meeting minutes as posted.
Thank you,
So
Sue
Laura,
Monroe for the
Laura,
motion, thank
second.
you, Richard Shaw for the second, all in favor of accepting 2024?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Any opposed? No opposed.
Very good. Report of the nominating committee.
Do you want to say a word on that? So in terms of the nominating committee of Daryl and Cecilia and I, we talked to the existing vestry and got a sense of what they were feeling, and some felt it was ready for them to transition into other things, and some wanted to stay. And so after that, we looked at who might have some of the skill sets that we're looking for, and sort of talk to them about that, and so that's really how we got names for that. It is, you should know, it is absolutely not just permissible, but encouraged that if someone wants to be nominated or nominate themselves from the floor, you're welcome to do that. Now, if you ask me immediately, how does that happen often? I can honestly tell you, I've never ever seen it happen. In fact, for those of you that were the Kate said she's seen it happen.
It happened to me.
So it is possible. For those of us that are on the receiving end, some of you won't mention names, received calls from a certain priest saying, would you consider doing this and that? So I want to thank everybody at this point who was on the receiving end of that. And we also sort of take into account what are things other people are doing and so forth. So, but that's basically, we look ahead at who's transitioning off. Some people are able to stay an extra year, like last year, Daryl and Kelly. This year, some others. And so we just, start calling people, basically. It's not a secret. We're just kind of looking for people. In some cases, we needed, so for example, this year, And we may end up having to change the bylaws on this because of this wonderful thing of new people coming and being a part. But we actually needed a warden to be from St. Paul's. So I'm very grateful for Graham for coming forward on that. But we might be getting to the point where we need that less going forward, but I don't know, we'll figure that out as a community. But that's basically the nominating process. Any questions on that? Pretty standard. If you've been part of another Episcopal church, it's pretty simple.
And FYI, in my 30-odd years of being a member up here at St. Paul's and Mount Grace, as many as I look out here and have done, we have served multiple times on vestry. We have served multiple times as wardens. I know Sue's nodding her head. I know Marco nodded his head. Bethel nodded her head. I've been on vestry this last term since like 2018. So I served as a vestry member, and I've done 2.5 terms as a warden. So I've been a warden pre-COVID, during COVID, transition to the new priest.
I'm shocked you don't want to do it again.
So my term's running out, and I just thought it was better to get out if I could.
Change the Bible.
So that's why I changed the bylaws. Throw the real kicker in. I'm not
It's a joke.
alien, so. But it's never stopped any of the priests before. I didn't think it was going to stop me out either. But I can tell you, for stepping up as part of my stewardship for this church, to understand what's going on within the church, to understand and be responsible for the fiduciary aspects of running a church and everything that goes involved is strictly a privilege and honor.
Well, this would be a good little moment just to give a little. You want Darryl to say more?
No, I just wanted, I feel like I need to stand up.
Kelly, while you're standing up, you're welcome, Sarah. So these are little gifts from all of us at Grace. It's just a thank you for the generosity of your time. I do have to say, you've heard me say this before, it is really true. This is a wonderful board / vestry because it really is looking at the big picture issues of the parish, which we know are big. So the issue is we'll start getting into some of those things today. The idea is not to do a deep dive on every little detail, but really to start the conversation even more deeply than we've had yet, and then continue that into the future. But thank you, Daryl, and Kelly, and Sarah, and thank you, Cecilia, for re-upping, and thanks to the new folks as well. How about a round of applause for you all?
Okay, so just kind of looking at the agenda real quick. So, are there any nominations from the floor for vestry or warden?
I think Cha wants to help.
Nice,
Put down that knife.
I saw nothing. Okay, we are appointing, this is tellers, it's plural. I didn't realize we could have 2 tellers.
Oh, really?
Or more, but we will have graciously accept the appointment of Lori as our clerk and teller for today's meeting. And now we have the election of the vestry persons.
Yes. So, we are going to then affirm this slate. We have no candidates from the floor, which is very typical in every Episcopal church I've been at. And so we're going to vote on, and I think we know where this is going to go, so I think we can do it as a package vote. We're going to vote on Graham for this year, for finishing in 2026. Cecilia, again, for 2 years. Ann Barringer Spaeth, building Kelly's. Allison Ford for 3 years, and Mary.
Is it in here?
It's in your packet.
You're speeding.
Oh, this will be fun.
I can tell already after grading my wife.
You should have known what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'll look.
All right, so can we see a show of hands? Do we have a motion to accept this list?
I have a motion to.
Okay, we're gonna do a reverse design. Richard motion, Sue, will you second? All in favor, and please keep your hand up just so we can see. And I know Barbara and Nicole, well, except for Barbara and Roland technically, but it's,
This is in paper, right?
Yes.
yeah,
Favor the slate.
yes.
I guess, I don't know. I would think so.
So it's a unanimous. Allison, you have your hand up?
I don't think so.
You don't, okay.
I don't wanna
You
vote for
can,
myself.
well, you can.
It's
Yes,
the
you
split.
can.
Looks unanimous.
Don't forget Kate.
Oh, well.
She's got her hand up. And Julie in the back, she's got her hand up. It's basically everybody in the room. Minus 2.
Are we allowed to receive text yeses or remote? I'd be happy to serve my phone number.
25 is good. That's what I got.
Brett, is there a question?
Okay, that's question. Do we want to receive text from our remote participants? I'd be happy to have my phone number out there for people to text. Yes.
How many people do we have?
I thought they were just gonna make comments.
Or can they chat it?
They can check,
Okay,
they,
good.
I'm tracking anyone who makes comments.
So not necessary.
So the people on live stream, if you would like to, if you're a member of Grace Church and you would like to vote yes or no, please add that in the chat section. We will include that in the voting. Thank you.
All right, Tara. So far
Can
we
you write hell yes?
We are so far unanimous.
So now do we have to elect them?
Or thanks be to God?
I think
I'm
we've
a
elected.
procedural guy.
I think we've elected. So it's right, so
Technically, the polls have to be open an hour.
we'll keep going.
We will go on to the end of the
And
meeting.
then let's count
or we
then we'll
comment.
count the chat response and we'll come back. Okay?
All right, we will open up with.
So I think we're going to start with a story. This is a story that none of you have heard before. You've heard about, it's true, there's a lot more. You've heard about my wonderful, Lori and my wonderful rector of Annunciation Church in New Orleans, who used to say things like, who was a missionary in Africa, came to New Orleans a couple months before, this church, a couple months before Katrina, and then Katrina flooded the entire church, the entire neighborhood where we live, and others. And Father Jerry used to say things like, of the 12 Episcopal churches in New Orleans, Annunciation is ranked 13th. One of his other favorite lines, and this became prominent in Katrina, is he would remind us all the time, be flexible, be fluid, not flexible, because flexible is too rigid. Be fluid, not flexible, because flexible is too rigid. Jerry used to say things, Father Jerry, Laura and I were not members quite at that point yet, but I was very involved in the neighborhood association, and the church was in profound support of the neighborhood association, which was slated to be all 7,000 people and the 2,300 homes. The 7,000 people would be forced off. The 2,300 homes would be destroyed and or rebuilt, but none of us would be allowed to keep our homes. And we knew that what would come of that were what you see in Florida, is the big, huge condo towers, because it would be built so high off the ground, because this was a lower lying flood area. And everybody in this neighborhood called Broadmoor had no input on this plan developed by these out-of-state urban planners, and so we rebelled against it. And we ended up creating our own plan, which ended up being very, very successful. Successful meaning bringing tens of millions of dollars into the neighborhood to redo the public school, the public library, a lot of great things. Jerry at one point said, look, if you, the neighborhood association, need anything, please come and let us know. So we would tell him, Jerry, we've got this meeting, we gotta get flyers out, we need like a couple $100. And after a while, he was like, I'm just gonna get a bigger copier to run more copies for you guys. And he said, look, we just don't wanna be dating y'all, we wanna be married. We wanna be with you because this is how we see the gospel. So I came to Jerry one day as part of the neighborhood association leadership, and I said, Father Jerry, you have said that if we ever need anything, no matter how big, we should come to you. And he said, that's right. And so I said, well, I got a big request. He goes, let's hear it. I said, okay. He said, just give me the bottom line, not the story, Hal. I know you, Hal. You're gonna tell me it's not the story. Just give me the bottom line. I said, okay, Father Jerry, here's the bottom line. We need you to take all of your office space, which is the only space in the church that stayed dry, the entire second floor. We need you to get rid of it, and we need you to make beds and shelters so that we can bring in volunteers, so we can help the people in the neighborhood, which is, so the city of New Orleans is a lower per capita income than the state of Louisiana, which is lower than the national average, and this neighborhood was even lower than the per capita in the state, in New Orleans. And so it's a lot of very poor neighbors. And so Jerry said, well, that's a big ask, you're not kidding. And just to be fair, you need to know that it needs to be a unanimous approval of the vestry, because frankly, I'm not gonna allow something like this split, so it's gotta be unanimous. And I said, okay. He said, look, I got a meeting in a couple days, I'll get back to you. So a few days later, we met, and by the way, he also said, understand that it's very likely to be unanimous in a way that you don't like. And so a couple days later, I saw Father Jerry, and I said, hey, what happened with that vote? He said, well, it's like I thought, it went unanimous. I said, well, thanks for trying. He said, no, it was unanimous, yes. He said, now I want to tell you what I told the vestry. We are the luckiest people in New Orleans. We're sitting at the epicenter of the lowest point, and we have neighbors that we have resources that can help them. And this is what Christianity is all about. This is about being in love and for people in their time of need. And if they're coming to us asking for this, isn't it clear what God is asking us to do? The church was dying before Katrina. After that choice, Lori and I joined the church. Other people joined the church. Many people joined the church. The church was able to attract literally millions of dollars in support because it was not just walking the walk, but making a tangible difference. That program called Annunciation Mission ended up housing over 12,000 volunteers that gutted over 800 houses. The IRS would allow nonprofits to have a rate of what you can compute for their volunteer labor. The volunteer labor ended up being over $12 million. How does that relate to us? I think we're entering a time of deep water. I think we're entering a time that's going to be challenging, and I'm discerning, as I shared in my sermon a couple weeks ago, I don't think it's by accident that you all have merged at this time with this history of both places having an exquisite long history of Christianity's love and service for others. And now we're at a time with our resources where there's going to be a lot of need and a lot of undertowed out there. And so I'm just, that experience in New Orleans was so profound. It ended up evoking in me a call that I never saw coming, never ever saw coming. And it changed people's lives. And that's the difference of living out our faith, even in hard times, and especially in hard times. Because the light of virtue never shines more brightly than in times of narcissism and self-focus and just rampant self-promotion. And so that's what we're living in. So, what strikes me about this parish is over the last 2 years, you've heard me talk about this occasionally, but literally every single one of you, and others not here who are live streaming, have told me stories of people in the parish that I'm going to use the phrase, loved you into membership. Beth even preached on it one time. She had no idea I was thinking about this, and she even preached on it. And many of you told me, Kelly, for example, when I first got here and was part of the vestry, and who are you and what you're about, people told me about the long history of people that were here and people that were still connected, like Carl in Florida, and there's just so many of them. And what I realized was, this is a legacy. This isn't a new thing. This is what's been going on at St. Paul's and Trinity for a long time, and that we have these assets, both the buildings, the culture, everything, the endowments, everything, because our forebears faithfully passed that down and loved you. And isn't that what our job is now? Is to create a grace church that loves the next generation in need, so that this amazing version of Christianity, which is, as the mission statement says, here's my quick summary, compassion in action. This is what we're going to hear over and over again in Luke. It's Luke's very definition of what Jesus taught. It is about compassion in action. And that's what this church is. So I just offer, as we start going deeper, talking about, what's going to happen with the 2 campuses and all the rest. And as you've heard me say, we're not deciding on that today. We're just beginning again this year to sort of inform ourselves more and more. But this is huge. This is huge that everybody here has that sense of membership. You know who you are. You're a parish. Well, let me say who you're not. And just invite you, no names. Do you know any Episcopal churches that fit this bill? You're not a country club parish.
We're not.
You're not a debate society parish. It's all intellectual, it's all pure, it's out.
We are not.
You're not an Episcopal church that's centered in its esteem principally in your important historical past that goes back to the 17th century with blah, 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 blah. There are churches out there like that. I could go on and on, but I think you're getting the point. What's amazing to me coming and joining is that, as you've heard me say before, so I'll keep it brief, the liturgical difference does not reflect a difference in values and philosophy, which it could have, but it does not. It's just a worship preference, which is great. But underneath, everybody is in agreement. This is about love and compassion. So this is huge. This is the single most important thing for churches to discern. Who are we and what should we be about? You had identified that in your mission statement, and you heard my sermon about that before, so I'll go on. People in Ossining are going to need us, in my view. Let me just pause there for a second. Does that sound crazy? I mean, what's your sense of things going forward? Do you think that there's going to be a need? Do you think there'll be greater need for food programs, for possible partnerships with Neighbors Link and what they bring to folks who are new to the country? What's your sense?
And children.
What's that?
And children.
And children.
From my perspective, it's obvious.
Yeah.
The numbers of people we serve every week at the pantry, and we did loaves and fish last night. We're hosting the shelter. I just feel like, with the current climate, that there'll be more need in different ways. But
Yep.
Yeah, because people are afraid to go to Loaves and Fishes. We had our rush early in the evening, and after that, it was pretty dead quiet.
Yep.
We should have had another 20 meals, we did not. So there are 20 people who are hungry last night.
A lot of clergy are talking amongst themselves. What's going on? Our kids are not going to school because they're anxious. They'll look at home and their parents aren't there. And Kelly, from schools, that's yep.
Working with parents in terms of guardianship, if they are taken while their kids are away, who is
going to be the guardian of your child.
Yeah, did everybody hear that?
I'm sorry. Did I not say, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry.
You're so soft-spoken, Kelly.
I know,
Please
and I'm
feel it.
usually not, so I'm so sorry. Yeah, we're working with, parents that, their immigration status, is, I don't even want to say questionable, but, because they're now taking people that aren't, it's not questionable. Anyway, working with parents to fill out guardianship papers so that their children, if something happens to them while their kids are at school, their children will have a designated guardian. And things like that, and just dealing with the overall anxiety of what happened right before somebody came to school, and they don't wanna come to school, and, they're scared, that their parents aren't gonna be there when they get home. So, yeah. Yes, it is. It is.
It is dramatic.
It is.
And ICE is in Ossining.
Yes. Yes, they are.
So, the question here is something we'll discern together, which is, where is God calling us? And God speaks through opportunities, and when opportunities arise, that's something to kind of pay attention to. The more sensitive and the more discerning, the more open we are, the clearer we'll get it. The more self-focused we are, the more deaf we'll be, to the call and the opportunities. So our job is to really stay open, talking with each other and building a consensus about what we're doing, what else should we be doing, or how should we be doing what we're doing more, or in collaboration, or whatever, what that looks like. But I close with this thought. It can feel unbelievably overwhelming. I can't begin to tell you what it was like to come back to my house in my neighborhood. It was, so being in real estate, I was able to get in before you were supposed to be able to get in. And the National Guard had surrounded the entire city, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. But most of them were like 18, 19, 20-year-old kids from Kansas and Nebraska and all the rest. And that's really wonderful and awesome, but they don't know all the little side streets in New Orleans. So I got in before you were supposed to get in, and then when I got in, I realized why they weren't letting people in. Because of the down power lines, that you could not see the streets, the trees and everything were down, was so bad. And it was very, very dangerous. And so, but it's in that environment that Annunciation Church chose to go out on a limb and to really be there for other people. And now, as a result of that, that church is not ranked 13th out of 12. It's not got 200 members, but as they will say, we've got a clear identity of who we are and what we're about, and they're proud of that, and they're still doing it. And so that's, that's legacy. That's what Bishop Matt in his Monday emails is talking about. We need to discern what's the next phase and not be afraid if it looks a little bit different from the last phase. So anyway, I want to make sure we're opening this annual meeting with something positive, because truthfully, as I've said to you all, honestly, if we don't burn through the endowment, financially, numerically speaking, there's no way we can fail. There's just none. We just have to deploy our assets in a way that's financially viable, and we're going to be a powerhouse for a long time to come. Thanks be to God. Questions? Yeah,
No,
please.
this is just a positive comment on this.
Yeah.
Which is that the social justice committee kind of waxed a little bit, and Deacon Jean Marie has started out with a group reading the book by Margaret Hayward, A Feminine and Fiscal Priest. One of the first women, on the 7 deadly sins of white Christian nationalism and a call to action. So we're trying to discern what we can do to help with all these situations. And people have been so interested, maybe it's the times, right? We had 2 meetings, at least 12 people at each meeting, and they weren't all the same people. So I'm hopeful, if we can figure out what steps to take, maybe there can be something positive going on.
Yeah. I'm very hopeful.
And she also, Carter makes the point of, it's the long game. We are to not get discouraged in the moment. We may not have impact until the next generation, but we've got to do the work now anyway.
Okay, thank you, Cal, for abbreviated priest report.
Abbreviated, because you've seen the written, it's longer.
But no less heartfelt.
It's not 60 pages long this time. But we're gonna kind of jump back a little bit. For people who are here when we're doing holy currencies, one of the things that really struck me was to create an open and safe space. And I feel it's very important for these types of meetings and vestry meetings that everyone feels comfortable with what they say. They can say it freely. So anyone have a little Aretha Franklin in their head and want to, start singing a little R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Go with Allison, she's working it. Thank you very much. But all our meetings in these types of formats need to be respectful responsibility. You take responsibility for what you say. No judgments going on. Use empathetic listening. You want to hear what people have to say. You want to be sensitive to the differences in communication styles. Some people yell, some people are really quiet, some people like to ramble all over the place. No one in particular. But I can tell you, I had a genetics professor who would start telling stories. And it took you like half the class to figure out what the theme was. So genetics was really tough for me because I was like, I had to pay attention and stay awake. And it was after lunch, so it was tough. So I'm a big ponderer. This is really key for me. Kind of listen to what you hear, kind of let it ruminate in your mind before you say anything, and don't let your feelings speak out for you. Examine your assumptions and perceptions. I come from a marketing background, so for me, perception's a reality when I'm dealing with people, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. We're seeing lots of things from different people today, and it's their perceptions, and it's come to reality, and it's not the truth. So, confidentiality, what we say here stays here kind of thing, unless it's being publicized in the open meeting, and trust. Ambiguity. I mean, we're not here to debate what's right or wrong. We're just trying to find out. All right? Make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Going? Sure.
Okay, so the agenda says Deacon's report, but Jean Marie isn't here.
She's not here.
Is that why there's a Deacon's report in the packet?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Okay, so if we want to know what went on from the Deacon's point of view, we read that.
Yes.
Correct.
Very good. Excellent. So, all right. State of grace. Word support. I speak on behalf of Cecilia here. So we're going to do a little Holy Currencies remix, just really quick. And I go really kind of glossy financial picture, high points, low point. You want to get the details. Go through the annual report for things. We're going to talk a little about deferred maintenance because it's always big wherever you are. It's not our church. It's all the churches. It's all businesses. People's homes. How many people have a roof that should have been replaced 5 years ago, or a porch that should have been replaced 3 years ago? Whatever. We put it off for a lot of different reasons. We're going to go talk about a little bit of sustainability and opportunities. So, back in September at our mid-year meeting, we did a little bit of an update. I focused a lot on holy currencies. We revisited the financial pictures and our findings from 2018. So for all our new people, thank you for being with us. I'll try to make it kind of clear, but if you have questions, by all means, come talk to me. I happen to be the chair of that group too. So. But I had a good help. I had a great team. So I got to put my glasses on so I can read some of my notes. So we refreshed your memory on our pre-merger finances. And one of the key factors for Grace merging was that we had this thought that together the church would thrive longer than either church separately. So really quickly, when we look at the finances that both churches had, we looked at the endowments both churches had, but then we looked at how the churches were spending the money. St. Paul's was gonna last twice as long as Trinity, even though Trinity's endowment was so much higher than St. Paul's because of a different type of fiscal financial planning methodology. You're not gonna go really too deep into that. But that was one of the reasons, in addition to being stronger, realizing that we had more in common, not despite our liturgical differences. We also illustrated how the vestry was addressing Grace's data on an urgent versus priority basis. So in the past, something would come up and you, oh, let's go do that. And you were kind of reactive to different things coming up. And Father Hell brought us a graphic looking at the urgent priority. I've kind of used it, but never really clarified it. But today, when something comes up, we actually look at it. How urgent is that? And where does it sit in that priority list? So it's both urgent priority, we need to do it. If it's urgent but not a priority, we may not do it. If it's high priority, then we have to weigh where it is on an urgency basis. So we've addressed that, and we've taken the steps as a vestry to look at that in everyday planning as we look at something. And you'll see more as I go through some of the building and ground stuff. What else we did here? So Grace's future is a bit of an unknown. Then it's up to us right now, as our active participants, to decide what the next steps are. So let's see where we go. I'll get my buttons right. Okay. So for those who weren't here in 2018, this was just a process to look at different ways of planning and mission. So, Holy Current says, discern what God is inviting us to do or be or change so that grace can be successful, sustainable, and mission driven. And the strategic visioning group, Holy Corinthians group, brought this message to the churches, and we all want to be successful, we all want to be sustainable, and we had to figure out a mission. So we do a lot of different mission things, but I think that going forward, as Father Hal has brought up, our identity is important, and what we want to provide to the community is important. And we believe that if we go through the currencies, and I can kind of really quickly go through those again. So first off, grace is blessed. We've got a sizable endowment compared to other churches our size. We've got great people working for you. You've got a really super vestry who's really taken a fiduciary role here in looking at what we can and can't do. But, so we have time and place. So we are today, but we have 2 campuses. So we have places. We have gracious leadership. Father Hal's come in. He's brought in the 5th Sundays. He's gone out into the community. We've got Sue on loaves and food pantry. We've got Allison on loaves and fish. We've got Cecilia doing a grief group. We are expanding our expertise and our willingness to participate with the community. And I think that's just a big piece of currency that we have going with us. Currency of relationships. You know, Hal's been meeting with people really quickly. You look at what's going on around here. We were blessed with some bequests and gifts. So, you know, enjoy the floor, enjoy the painting that was done to the educational wing. You can enjoy the painting that was done at the Trinity Kitchen. These are all gifts of wealth because of the currencies. They're flowing, right? You have currency of truth. That's kind of a tough one. It may be, let me come back to that one, just because I have to think a little bit how I'm going to bring that up best. We have a currency of wellness, and we have currency of money. So most churches always just think about money. Where is it? How much we got? What are we going to spend it on? and what we're gonna do with it. But money isn't the key value, because all these have to work together to stay in balance, right? So, the question today, are our currencies flowing and are we balanced? And if we look at these currencies, which ones might tip us and put us off balance? So I mean, like this planning, I felt it was easy to talk to. I think the visioning group felt it was appropriate. And I think it continues to be applicable to help us as Grace move forward in finding a mission to be sustainable and successful. No, going backwards. Too many buttons on this thing. Okay, so financial wellness. Should Grace be planning for a sustainable future, retirement, and generate wealth, or should we go out with a bang? People are nodding their heads, they're wondering. And I throw this up because in the vestry, we've heard both ideas. We've heard people say, well, just spend it all. And I'm like, really? Okay, we can do that. Or we can fall into the Holy Currencies group and say, let's figure out a plan. And we are now of an age where retirement is big. So we're not in our 30s, 40s and planning for retirement. We're already in retirement to some people. But I think that, what do you want to leave to be sustainable as a Grace for this community? And I think that all of us have ideas, and I know with the new vestry coming in, especially Graham has some ideas, and I welcome the next presentation next year, or through all next year, of what some of these ideas are going to be, and I hope everyone will participate and stay engaged as we figure this out. All right, so we get a lot of support on that bang bang. But certainly, key kind of questions we need to be thinking about going forward. So, Beth is our treasurer. She's going to have more details within the end report if you want to look and do a deep dive and everything. But so going backwards, this is last year, 2024. So income-wise, for the year, we came in just under $450,000 in income. Now, a good portion of that, 56% of the income came from investments. That's not pledges, that's not gifts or requests. It's from our investments, and we're lucky. And Richard will talk more about the investments later on. So the key note here, and this was something the St. Paul's Church did, we tried to stick to a 4% drawdown when we did our financial budgets. That 4%, when we look back at 2018, said St. Paul's was going to be able to last and be sustainable more longer than Trinity, because Trinity was spending or drawing down more than their 4%. So, a 4% drawdown in 2024 would have been $120,000. We took out $245,000. That $245,000 enabled us to come in and try to cover our expenses of $520,000.
Yeah. So I want to make a comment to make sure that people understand that, because this has been something we talked about.
Let me finish too.
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
I think I know where you're
Yeah,
going.
you do.
So, really quickly, from all the financial minds, I know we got the really good ones, and so I'm like, okay, I kind of get it, but, so, if you make more than you spend, you have a profit. If you spend more than you make, you get a deficit, right?
So Daryl, basically, we're spending 8% instead of 4%.
Well, I mean, we'll look at it here. So if we do the math, we spent 520, we took in 440, we end up with a $72,000 deficit. So, people want to kind of know where the details are. So, that 520, well, just talk about, and this is always a key to most businesses. Staffing, administration, it's always your biggest nut. Well, 31% is Father Health, directory, everything else in there. But this is kind of a key. Between the two campuses, St. Paul's cost $71,000, Trinity cost $65,000. That's $135,000. That's 26% of the budget. A quarter of the budget is going to operations, just to maintain both campuses on an average annual basis. Capital improvements, we try to do that. We invested or plan to spend $50,000 or 10%. So the rest is a lot of details that you can get through, this. But so the key things are: we spent more than we take. Maintaining two campuses is expensive, and we draw down more than we should to have a sustainable perspective. So all of us who are maybe in retirement, you look at what you're going to get from a pension. You're going to get what we're getting from Social Security. You're going to say, well, how much did I put in my RAs and my 401ks? And I can take X amount of dollars to last me so long. So if you're 50, 65, or 70, or 75, or 80, you figured out that I can only take out so much if I want to have that money available till I'm like 99. Anything else becomes what I can gift to my heirs.
I'm sorry.
So let me get Amy first.
No, I'm answered.
Your answer, Sue?
I'm just trying to figure out how it costs more to run St. Paul's than Trinity.
Well, I think we've got a different kind of a campus and that's.
Well, this year it was certain improvements we did, the painting and stuff that went with the operating budget that were
Oh, okay, so this is
I wouldn't necessarily say this year was a typical year. I was looking at that.
Yeah, because if you go into the details,
The dumpsters
Okay,
were
okay.
like $6,000 to clean spaces.
Well, usually they're pretty close.
Operating.
Within probably, what, maybe $4,000 or $5,000?
I was just thinking how often the pantry's there and how often we're running Potter Hall. And
Well, you have to think too that, depends what the winters are like, with a more efficient heating system, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
You got who's leakier,
Yep.
you got all kinds of things.
Okay.
You got bigger property for gas, for mowing lawns and stuff like that. Plus we have, so.
Sorry, thanks.
No, well, good questions. We're here to address them, make sure you feel comfortable with how these answers are going.
So one thing I want to address is I've heard people say like we shouldn't be taking anything out of the endowment because that's like a deficit. Some people have said that. So Daryl proposed a really good metaphor when we were trying to figure out how to deal with this, which is if you're in retirement or planning to be in retirement, you're probably looking at a scenario where you're trying to get X amount of money, and then you'll pull off a certain amount of that. And Richard can correct me if I'm wrong, but the usual amount is somewhere around 4%, because if you take 4% or less to live off of, you're gonna have enough in there still to not be taking down the principal, in fact, give it some room to grow even more. So realize, does that make sense to everybody? Richard, does that
You're
make
counting
sense?
on the market to make up the difference.
I'll hit that later. I think Richard and I, so.
Okay, good.
We'll focus on that.
The other thing is, we related to the priest, is my salary is $75,000, but the other things that are part of it add in. I don't know what the total is. 161 sounds awfully high, but.
Taxes on the property.
Well, I don't know, but no, where I'm going with this, where I'm actually going with this is part of what Grace is gonna have to decide in the future is full-time or part-time clergy. Because that's going to impact, the budget.
So, really quick, estimated financial life expectancy. So jump back to strategic visioning, holy currencies, 2018, pre-merger. St. Paul's was 23 years, Trinity was 12. Mostly because of financial planning. 2024, we have a $2 million endowment, and we continue growing 8% right now, and we make some assumptions, no market appreciation, and we don't change our spending rates, or how much we draw every year. Grace has gone in 9 to 10 years.
I'm shocked at the last
So
one.
like last year was good. Last year, S&P was up 24%. 24 to 25%. And our investments for endowments came in at 19. So we didn't match the market, but we were better than 8.
Yep.
So that's our blessing. In an up market, you can take your 80%.
Right.
But I can't stand here and guarantee that we're gonna be in an up market for the next 9 to 10 years.
Highly unlikely.
Hey Joe, the 2018 figures, we didn't try to account, as I remember, for demographics, people, the congregation aging, people moving away, funerals. We kind of assumed a stasis of
pretty steady
numbers, yeah.
Well, it was a
So-
snapshot in that exact moment for
Yeah.
everyone
Right.
to
That's true.
understand.
Yeah, based on financial,
Yeah.
what existed, what you're spending down,
Yeah.
no market appreciation.
But we could see that coming.
But we saw that coming, right. We're good. All right, so now we're gonna jump to building and grounds. Again, building and grounds report is in the big packet if you wanna look at all the details of all the things that got accomplished. 2024 recap, let's see, the big picture that were part of that was the Trinity Kitchen. So the Trinity Kitchen kind of gets an annual health inspection from Westchester County Department of Health. We're out of whack because we didn't have a dishwasher, we didn't have a sanitizing session. So the vestry and buildings and grounds met, we decided, okay, we're gonna splurge, we're gonna put in a commercial dishwasher, the dishwasher's great, does a cycle every 2 minutes, does silverware in a minute and a half. We use real plates today because of recycling benefits and because we have the plates available. But this took over a year to get done. And a lot of hands were on deck. Buildings and grounds people went in there, they did some repairs that they could, they did some minor painting that they could. We had to make some changes with the new dishwasher. But as I said earlier, with part of the Holy Currencies, Loaves and Fish came forward. They had a donor that provided some money to go to the commercial dishwasher. One of the things was cleanliness and painting of that facility. So Loaves and Fish again, their donations came in, plus their contractor donated their time and only charged them for their materials and their initial time with no margins. So if you go down to Trinity now, that kitchen is perfectly painted white. Look at that exhaust fan, it's sparkling. So we have great gratitude to get this off our plate. The county sent us a new certificate of inspections, or good, or Loaves and Fish is good. The Trinity, Parish Hall steps had been moving, those were replaced. St. Paul's, if you ever sat on the left side in the front, you might have noticed that some of the tiles have been pulling up. Those were replaced thanks to Father Manny and his ministerial group that comes in here that's renting space from us. Right here, I mean, this is the biggest thing. The St. Paul's flooring, the painting, the kitchen, the lantern shop was repainted. All this was based on gifts and some additional funding. Primarily the Joan Hampshire estate covered a good portion of this. Part of this too was our safety group led off by Amy. One of her things was fire hazards. That actually prompted us. So if you ever had to go to the boiler room back here behind the educational wing, or you really got lucky, you got to go to the boiler room outside the sanctuary, and the shed, if you ever had to go to the shed, all those were cleaned out, thanks to Beth and our contractors, to the tune of 2 big dumpsters and stuff getting out of here. So that was a big one, and then we put a share. So there's over $16,000 in minor repairs, but there were much more that was covered by gifts. So that's kind of the 24 recap. And again, there's a little bit more that's sitting in the BG report within the annual meeting. Deferred maintenance. Amy.
Okay. So I see projects that are in progress.
Yep.
Potter Hall floor.
Yep.
St. Paul's mold.
Yep, we're getting there.
And Trinity roof.
Yep.
How are we gonna pay for all that?
Well, figure out a way to have to assess some of this stuff. And
Amy, I thought you were doing it.
Well, we could try some kind of capital campaign, I don't know.
Well, there are some funding prospects for us, and there are some grants that could be applied for, have to be initiated.
And like from the diocese?
Yeah.
Okay, and I have one other question. Sure. Which is, I see there's 98,000 for the St. Paul's roof fund.
Correct.
Does the roof need fixing?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, so
It's
St.
beyond-
Paul's
it's
roof,
beyond-
gutters, downspouts, everything, that also needs fixing. In addition to Trinity's, roofs that estimates of $100,000.
Possibly, when you look at everything.
It's a lot of expenses, huh?
It is.
Yeah. So I think if Amy brings up some good points, and that's why those numbers are sitting in the BG report. We're looking at those, again, looking at an urgent priority basis, looking at what our mission is. We will address each one on its own. Some projects like the Trinity Parish Hall floor has been ongoing for many years. Temporary pilings have been installed. We do have a permit approved by the village. We're currently meeting with the engineers and a contractor to actually put the permanent pilings in. Okay?
Estimated time to start the project, we're looking at March.
Yeah, but we don't know that number for the permanent pilings.
For the Potter floor?
But because that project was started, because we've invested money in the gutter system over there, again, deferred maintenance. This is great, people go deferred maintenance. So you walk by a church that has a history, that's got 2-story long leaders, and you go up and knock on one. And knocking on a gutter that's supposed to be hollow and allows water flow, and it goes like this. And they were packed. So the deferred maintenance said that they were happy to possibly flush the gutters clean, but they never flushed the leaders clean.
Oh.
So the leaders
Such a
ran
good idea.
underground. So Trinity's actually pretty unique, that all the gutters have the downspouts go into pipes that run under the church, that runs into a main that goes into the village water system. So, but they were impacted. They had to bring in big water power pumps and push all that
That
through.
occupies
So
a
those are all
lot of my
cleaned now.
time,
But that cost
thinking
us,
about my gutter.
so that our roofs would
It's
drain,
huge.
that we
You
wouldn't
really have to be on top of
have
it.
backups that would cause more water damage. And now that we've invested in that, and we put the temporary pilings in, we figure we have to complete that job, make sure the floor is safe for all the activity, for the food pantry, and everything else as part of our mission of work. Good? Oh, history deferred maintenance. All right, so, and these are just some of the key examples, not all. And these are only kind of going back to the merger. But, so here we go, I just talked about the Potter Hall. Trinity Narthex roof, everyone's walked through this, most people don't come through Trinity from the doors off of Highland Hampton, they come in around. If you come in, that whole narthex, the walls, the ceiling's wall, the paint peeling. But this goes back to 2022, and thanks to Sue, there's actually a $4,000 grant.
4,800.
Huh?
4,800.
4,800. But, you know, I think when we're looking at, this is like a $40,000 project. The Trinity East roof, and I say East roof just because directionally, so the East roof covers the kitchen, the janitor hall, closet, and the stage. So what's on the stage? Anyone know? It's not, don't, some people can't answer.
Food pantry.
Food pantry. So I suspect that if you, so between the stage door and the kitchen, there's a little closet door. It's a janitor closet. So if you open that closet, there's a big hole up in the ceiling. So we're going to get to a little thing about mold here, but I think that there's potentially mold there.
No, it's not potential.
Well, it hasn't been tested. I haven't seen a report.
You don't have to.
But so we could speculate
face
that
of the
there's
cabinet.
mold there, and it affects all the food that goes out in the community. So we are looking at safety of what we do as a community, what we're putting back into the community. Trinity stained glass windows, I think it goes way, way, way back. It was such a concern that they actually got a report, an estimate in 2018. And at that point, the Trinity stained glass was $150,000 to repair the windows, the framing and everything else to keep it up.
Is the lead loose in them, or
Huh?
is the lead solder loose in them?
Some of it, and then some of it's the mortars, or whatever it's
Oh,
called.
that's
that holds it in.
For me.
St. Paul's roof, as we know, St. Paul's did a deal where we put in 50%, the diocese matched us for 50%, and we started this way back when after we did a roof, we started the next one, because we knew that in 25 years, we probably need a new roof. So there's $98,000 available for this roof. St. Paul's boilers, baby, these are old. And I forget the number to replace. We've got 4 boilers here.
3 boilers, and it was well over 75,000 combined.
What are they, like 70 years old? Come on.
At least.
Well,
Yeah, what year did we open?
51, I think, or something.
67 years.
So, a history of deferred maintenance is likely a key factor in our overall wellness, which happens to be a holy currency. Okay, just making sure. All right. Now, looming projects. St. Paul mold assessment. And I could probably say the same thing with Trinity mold assessment. We haven't done a test yet. But if mold is determined, we'd have to repair the roof and all the gutters and everything else, of which only 98,000 is available. And then, after that, we'd have a mold remediation, have to come in and treat everything else that wasn't repaired. And right now, the estimate is 44,000.
Can I ask a quick question? Does that include the ceiling sheetrock?
The mold?
No, well, if indeed, God forbid, it does turn out that mold has to be remediated, and that's the 44K. Is there an additional, does that include, the 44K, does that include replacing all of, okay.
That's only cleaning.
I'm just cheering you up here.
That's the spray stuff and scrubbing down
Yeah, yeah.
stuff and treating stuff. It's not a replacement cost yet.
Okay.
So, I'm not a construction guy, I can't give you the big estimates on what this is, other than they're big. So, the vestry has recognized this. We've reached out to a contractor. Milton's not here, say a prayer, he just went down for a funeral. That's why he's not here today. But he's been in contact, with some of these companies. But we believe that the first thing we need to do, we brought this up to the vestry, vestry agreed, we need to get up into the choir loft, and we need to look at anything that hasn't been touched for a while. And in a while, I mean, since Suji's been here. So anything that Suji hasn't touched, we need to go in and possibly toss. Evaluate, see what's savable, not savable, and get rid of it, because as long as that is up there, and that may be harboring or potentiating the mold, we need to remove the mold before we want to test for mold. It just makes sense, doesn't it? So that's a priority. Kelly, I believe, and Sarah were our liaisons at the time. Unfortunately, they both are stepping off the vestry, but I hopefully will continue to be liaisons for the new vestry as choir members.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, so moved.
All right. And then the other things, I mentioned already that Amy could be in the group and does some preliminary work to address the safety, security, building codes, ADA compliance, and we've removed unused materials that were here in our boiler rooms, but we haven't removed a look at materials that might be at the Trinity upper room or the basement there. We've also talked about security cameras, many, for those, Tina's up here by herself a lot of times. People knock on the door. We thought that it would be nice if she had like a rain camera type of thing, so she could see to make sure that the best, it's me, like, hey, it's me. Yo. Or,
If you get a ring, she'll know before you get out of the car.
Yeah. Or making sure delivery is safe. And certainly because of the rental aspect going on here, we might want to think about other.
Is the security system that Trinity installed years ago still operating?
Yeah. Yeah. But so I don't know if people. So Trinity has a security system, a video camera system. However, the downside is that it's using outdated software. And I don't think that software can be updated. I'm not sure. That'd be a key kind of question. And that's unfortunately the problem with technology. If you bought something 20 years ago and you're running Windows 98, and your computer and Windows says, you're discontinuing Windows 10, so you got to get to Windows 11. It means if you upgrade, it's not necessarily going to talk to each other. How am I doing?
Great.
Doing good? Everyone's online? Given too many surprises here? Okay, sustainability time. So, wellness, bird maintenance. I think they're big keys. I also told you I was going to talk to you a little bit more about the currency of truth. Yeah, Kelly's keeping me on the spot. So, as a reminder or refresher, truth isn't either or. It's not right or wrong. It's, true or false thinking. Truth is being aware. It's awareness. Truth is acknowledging there's a story, the beginning, a middle, and an end. So, as I look at it and talking to people and listening, so together, St. Paul and Trinity, we've had a very storied historical past, our beginnings. Together, we courageously made the decision to merge. We became Grace. Current religious patterns have changed. The old way of thinking was you needed, for a church this size, you wanted at least, 125 pledging units to maintain a church of St. Paul size? And you probably need, maybe 150 to 200 for a church of Trinity size? So that's 350. And we're looking at less than 30 people in to maintain those types of campuses. So, we get to write the end, or start developing the end story. opportunities. We like opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So, the vestry is aware, it is agreed that we need to assess and value all our campus belongings. Windows, silver, whatever of value. We need accurate assessments. We can't use insurance, real estate, full replacement value, you know, as a number when we report what we're worth. We need to get a better estimated cost on all deferred maintenance. We got to chart the new path for grace. And I think we need to look at, do we keep, sell, rent one or both campuses?
Does St. Paul still pay exorbitant water bills because of their frontage?
Probably.
Yes.
I would say, Beth would say yes.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Oh, and it's a fee.
Yeah, right. It's a tax or something, right?
So,
They can't call it a tax.
I've given you my story. I've given you my truth. And we get to make this hard decision together. We get to make a hard decision together. You know, not today. I think we still need more data. Not much though.
It occurs to me too, yes, we do need more data. I think at this juncture that everybody, because obviously this is the committed, you know, right? These are the people who can come and the people who can't come who are ill today. But really think about who, other than who are we, you know, we know, right? But what do we see, you know, like, what do we see as a future? You know, it was kind of hard to get the shelter covered, and it was, you know, back and forth about the, you know, loaves and fish. And I just think that we have a lot of people with big hearts, but we don't have a lot of hands. And I think that that may be something that everyone needs to address, and I don't mean like, why didn't you show up? You know, I don't mean that.
I say that.
I know. Mostly to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my bigger point is that I wonder at times if we aren't at capacity in terms of the missions that are so important to us, and that the hard truth that we need to look at is what will make sense. What makes sense? Because, you know, I'm in a glorious building and I look around and I do a little head count, I can't help it. And it's like, oh, 28 today, yay. And 12 of us are on the altar, yay. You know, I just think that we need to, that's the hard thing. And that's not a today thing, I know. The end.
I don't know. I think they're all good, valid points. And again, this is the space to open and share and let everyone hear. You've got the new vestry coming in to hear, and hopefully everyone's employing empathetic listening to hear how people feel. And now you know that if someone says, boy, you should have done this 4 years ago, well, I can tell you, you know, being your warden 4 years ago, without a priest coming out of COVID, I wasn't making that decision.
No.
And I don't think anyone here would have wanted to make that decision. And I don't think the vestry wanted to make that decision. And it wasn't until we called Hal or any priest who was going to come here and give some spiritual leadership that you would want someone to give us a little more pastoral care in this decision. It's not just a me decision or a vestry decision, it's a grace decision. So, I want to thank everybody for your attention, especially those who haven't been here through the legacies. I really appreciate you staying and being attentive, nodding your head. I appreciate everyone who steps up and volunteers. I feel lighter today. But any other questions? is my thank you on behalf of Syria.
Wonderful senior warden, thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to give you some context real quick. I'm on the board at the Ossining Library, new building, 2007. And I have to tell you, we're always hiring architects and engineers because fire codes change, building codes change, the building shifts, the ground shifts, and we need to really pay attention to all that stuff. And for the major to-dos, everyone on the vestry was like, the board was like, oh no, we can't do that. I don't feel like it's a new building. And I had Carl Consalves, God bless him and thank you, head of the facilities department at the United Nations, agreed to accept my invitation, sat down with the board and said, this isn't stuff you can defer. You need to do it. And we're still processing that. So this is kind of a normal thing in the world. And the other point I want to make is, you know, as daunting as this appears, and as formidable as the year ahead will be, you know, our liturgical stats say we had 0 baptisms last year. We had 0, I don't know when the last matrimony marriage took, see? The universe has spoken. I don't know when the last wedding took place at our churches. We have 32 average Sunday attendance, you know, on our parochial report. We had 4 funerals last year though, and that's a number that seems to be reliably showing up on our parochial report now. And I took a quick look as far as what the church faith community world looks like in the United States. And I found this amazing video, news video from ABC about a church. It aired in December. And it started with this beautiful church in Buffalo, New York, 170 years old. Just a beautiful building, beautiful stained glass, and they had to close it. And it was one of 100 churches they had to close. And the clergy they were interviewing said, we've got about 70 coming up in the year ahead. And so I saw that video, and I saw Atlantic Magazine had an article, The True Cost of the Church Going Bust, measuring demographics of declining attendance at churches, declining marriages, declining birth rates in this country. And that really spells major problems and hurdles here. And then there was a blog, repurposed church property and zoning laws, and then finally Episcopal Church projected lifeline. And it was taking a look at some really dark trends. But I just want to say, I have a lot of pride in what we've been able to accomplish together, merging in 2021. You know, our vestry search and the support we've given Father Hal since his calling. And we've had, you know, courage and perfect timing, because when Beth and I went to the convention last November, I cannot tell you how many churches were panicking. We're not going to survive. We don't know what to do. We lost one of our buildings. And it was kind of like, I don't know how you repair that. And I think we've been really reliable and blessed that, you know, we've kind of tightened our belts and, you know, inhaled deeply and proceeded forward. And that's a gift. So I'm grateful that we're nimble and we're very good at pivoting. We've been really good during COVID. COVID was a game changer for many. Who saw that coming? For many churches. And thank you to Kate and Steve for helping us reach out to people who can worship remotely. And I'm asking people who are viewing us remotely, what can we do to kind of make this more personal for you and more engaging? You know, should we do chats? Think about how it could be more meaningful. So I'm just really very grateful that we're very responsive, supportive, and grief group just kind of organically grew out of all the stuff we've gone through. Our last meeting before this weekend, we had 16 people. Wow. And I'd say about half of them were not from the church, people in the community. So, I mean, we do really respond to needs in our area. Buildings and grounds, they're so excellent, macro and micro level. They're always triaging, God bless them. And I think that's like the perfect leadership for us. So we just need to do a lot of hard work. We're all in this together, and we'll discern our way forward. And I'll share the links. I'll have Tina share via email blast the links and articles I was referring to just now. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm coming up here now.
All right, okay, I've got my slides, I got my stuff, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna get ahead of myself a little bit, but, some of you know that I have a theater administration background. And for the past 12 or 15 years, and certainly through COVID, I do corporate training programs, and one of my favorites that has been is stress management with humor. And as a recovering perfectionist, this is really important. Thank you for laughing, Sushi. I was with her when she was so frustrated, like Carol's with the organ. So, because I know the vagus nerve here, we hum, we loosen up our tension. Looking at this, because you've heard a lot. I don't know about you, my heart's racing, I'm sweating a little bit, don't get close. So I want us all to take our kazoo. If you don't have one, I got plenty, and go, did I do that? Oh, there we go. What do you get from Amazon? You can do it without the kazoo. What? Oh, yeah, there's a whole box, and there's even another box. Now, okay, here we go. Is this going? Where do I got to point this, girl?
Gotta put that little tiny thing.
The one that's worn out? Maybe I'll do this. There we go. Okay. So, thank you. And so, I see this as a journey. Okay, so truth was mentioned as a currency, and when I talk in corporate training world about multi-generational workplace, diversity, equity, and inclusion, let's start with we don't know what we don't know, and you'll hear that again. And I'll have a takeaway for you. But the truth, as Aristotle said a long time ago, is the right thing in the right way at the right time for the right reason. That's a lot of conditions. And so that's a way to take the holy currency idea of respect, maybe to more action, right? And I will take that as a treasurer, that sometimes I'm going to go stop in the name of love. I'm in saturation. I've served on the altar. I have, the dog throw up before I left the house. I stayed up late last night doing something, had a fight with my husband, and I'm at capacity. And that's being gracious with our community as well. And I'll also add, as we look at the retirement metaphor that Daryl gave us, it started with horse and buggy, and I'm really mad I did not buy that Etsy postcard of Trinity with a horse and carriage in front of it. That was $10. Then the cars, Model A, Model T, it became more affordable, assembly line workers, part of our Ossining story here, the Brandreth Pill Factory, all the things that came out of the big car, about the time leading into where we were here, our sedans. Some of us got minivans, select a lot of stuff and kids and stuff. And some of us may be at the phase of Uber, or rideshare, or Zoom, live stream. So we don't know what it's going to look like. And so that ambiguity is really important. Here we go. Okay, so a bit about me, because you know, we are a merged congregation, and 2 years is not a long time for those of us who have been married or had partners along the way, like really the honeymoon period. And we worked a long time, so it's the third time for me being treasurer. First time, I was very young, very different responsibilities, and I learned an important lesson, which is important for now, is a teeny tiny church. We stepped out of the sanctuary in Cleveland Heights, and there was a parlor with a big piano. That's where we had coffee hour. So the cupcakes, I'm sorry to the musicians, was on the piano. And I took over for dear sweet Ruby Haney. She was little. And we had to open mailboxes with the bills. Now, two things I did that felt really uncomfortable because I hadn't been there long, yet leadership respected my background. One was, I taught Sunday school, imagine that, and did buildings and grounds work, and I paid the bills. Knowing myself, I realized in due time, making a mistake with the search committee report, I cannot take home papers other than Sunday school on Sunday. Because I misplaced and totally forgot that our search document on search committee. So I would pick up the bills only on Thursday, or maybe come through Wednesday night, because Thursday night was good night on TV, and I could do that while I watched TV. People thought I wasn't paying the bills, the people who were frankly suspicious, uncomfortable. And the other thing I learned in our very small parlor from a junior warden who's a preacher's kid. And she came up to me and said, I learned from my father that when something's going on, you go right to the source. If you hear a rumor, go right to the source. Ask. And she asked me, are you going to be away for 3 months? No. I realized, and it was only one word that changed, is that someone had heard that I was coming home Labor Day weekend or Easter in Cleveland to go to a family wedding. And the next time I was going to be able to go home was at Christmas in 3 months. So there was a whole lot of worry over nothing because of one preposition. So I really appreciate that. Come to the source. So those are things I learned. Oh, let me go back one slide to my. Notice we can go one way and just talk about the retirement analogy. If we all died with 1 penny, we'd have enough. Our debts don't exist anymore. If, however, we want a legacy for grace, then, whoops, that's the wrong way. Speaking of legacy, we want our funds to be sustainable. So, I'm certified in mediation in New York State, very different than negotiation, win-lose, tug-of-war. We're looking at wants, needs, and interests, and I think I shared that in the fall. I have an MFA, MBA from the Yale School of Drama and Nonprofit Theater Management, that's nonprofit accounting, organizational behavior, change management, all sorts of things that we are experiencing here are typical of theaters, could be food pantries, or organic growth, ebbs and flow, and relationship to cultural environment. I done all that church stuff. This is, if you want to know, ask Kelly about climbing on the ladder. And I so value not being a vestry member because I get to observe. And we still have cultural differences between the campuses. And I really refer to them as the Hill and downtown. And one is, which is, of course I climbed a ladder and cleaned those screens in the summer. To which Kelly and Milton went, no! Well, that is part of, you know, we had Shine the Shrine before we replaced the floor. There are differences baked into our cultures and our campuses that I think if we ferret them out, we can also be good stewards of our things. I'm special education, saw Kelly long ago, child and parent advocate, both for kids with learning disabilities and mental health issues, and a corporate communicator on all sorts of things. So that's just a bit about me. And so, did I go 2 slides or more? Yeah, no, that's it. Okay, so there was some idea of having some Q&A. We have all these things. You see the financial things. We are blessed with riches. And I am really a wordsmith because of, you know, my education, and also having family members on public board of finances. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. So I really mean it when I say we're in the love and forgiveness business. I am dyslexic and I will make mistakes, which is why I'm so happy about our bookkeeper. And so we have assets. It is our building, it is our money, it is our time, talent, and treasures. So to Sue's point, we have the talent, we have the will, do we have the time or aging body? Like, I can't sew and fix vestments like I used to. Arthritis, should I be picking up 50-pound things for the food pantry or whatever. And amongst these assets, we count funds. Cash is cash, as they say in accounting, really important. And within some budgeting meetings and things we've had, I did discuss, usually I go with a gut, since I am pulling up some of the stuff I haven't used in a while. Something is not feeling right. And that doesn't mean something was done wrong. It's a thought process. I will say about the reports and the bookkeeping, accounting and that sort of stuff is a practice. Just like medicine, just like law. So there's different ways, and what we need for leadership and for our understanding is to know the story. What does it represent? And Richard does the investment part, and you'll see some differences between my report and his report because we have different stories and different looking at the pieces. So the draw, Daryl talked about draw, and 3-year rolling average, 4%. That's what DIT recovered. We signed up for as a discipline, and it's all to keep purchasing power. Really important. We expect inflation, and we want money to last. So, and we have operating. What we do, you saw big budgets and capital, deferred maintenance of big projects. We have temporarily restricted money. Sample could be, we have a lot of cash because we had lessons and carols and the collection was for the food pantry. Well, we're going to put it in, we've got to put it in the bank to send a check to them. So temporary restricted, we could even say the Hampshire gift is temporary restricted. We know we're going to use it for this property and we've been using it. So investments could be from, most of it is in the endowment, but we have some investments in over the history of on the Hill, doing an investigation 25 years ago. We once were gifted in 1932 4 shares of Con Ed. Maybe, thanks for laughing with me. And we also had buildings downtown in the Hill. Most of us don't remember, somewhere on Main Street. It's dynamic, or my mother's favorite word, money is fungible. So, in my report, I said the myths and questions. Grace is in debt. No, we're not. We actually, for our size, have very little debt. We have the sidewalk loan. Trinity had a loan, diocesan given, that they paid off. Last year or the year before, we had like 5,000, 6,000 for all the walkway work we had to do, which involved drainage. Renting space makes us for profit. I heard this walking through, and I quickly tossed out the answer, and I don't know who asked the question or was discussing the question. Once again, come to the source. I may say I don't know, I will find out. But to be for profit means stockholders, a distribution to an owner or multiple stockholders. And you want to hear? There we go. Sorry. Which we don't have. That's IRS number 1. We are not involved in political things. Another thing that makes the IRS very not so kind to different things than a 501c3. And it is not our principal business. So those of us who know about Trinity Wall Street, they own a ton of real estate. So they have that arm that invests that. I'm certain they pay taxes to the city of New York and the state. And if they can make enough to then fund all the Trinity programs which we've received as Trinity grants, great. So we're nowhere near that. We're nowhere near that. And we could argue, and we'll be looking at our bylaws to write as broad a description of our mission and purpose, so things like the open door, like ministerios are covered to help us. And also, worst case, we could go to the Attorney General, the thing in the Bible, and ask sort of forgiveness or an exemption for that kind of thing. So you'll see this year, Daryl mentioned insurance valuation. Even with the windows, we have a recent thing that they're okay, we don't need to tend to them immediately, and people don't want to buy them. There's too many, there's a glut, there's a lot of churches. So we can look at that. So assume nothing. Please ask, be truthful, and I say ask if you can. And this is an important, to me, is I know you can't ask a question if you don't have a wealth of knowledge. Let me say that again. You cannot form a question if you don't have a wealth of knowledge. So I'm happy, so is leadership, to take the pieces. What about, if you feel like that doesn't make sense, that's a great thing to say. I love to look at that. When we examined our endowments at St. Paul's, which, by the way, in the most conservative endowment description for nonprofits, we don't have enough to know, is it really an endowment? Because it was vestry and rector led that any memorial gift went to endowment. It was not the donor's decision to make it go to an endowment. So memorial and endowment are two different things. And I have worked very hard, certainly in my early time here, I've been here, I think, over 35 years now, to distinguish those. Those are very different things. I can talk offline. So please ask if you can, or I'm confused, I'll take that. Leadership will take that. The best thing about being a non-vestry member is that I get to observe. I have no allegiance bias representation for you, because I'm not vestry, which was really one of my takes when asked to serve. I said I don't want to be on vestry. And I've done this before with other boards. I'd have two different answers or be tempted to do different answers. I want to be able to answer the question. We could do it this way, or we could do it that way. I need to think about it, whatever it is with our things. 3-year term, this is important for our legacy as well. We have fewer people, and we can have individuals or portions of us that have a curse of knowledge. And then roles and responsibilities get conflated, and that's not good if any of us get sick. Who's going to do it? Who knows where the passwords are in this digital age? So it's no different than you know, the burglar alarm, and we don't have the software to run it. So that's really important as well. And yes, looking at the reports I created, there is cost. There's cost to having people use our property. Whether it's we need more electrical, we need a better sink, we need some security or improved doors to make sure we have egress, some light fixtures failing. So yes, the capital load, thanks Cecilia for that library example, it is big. So I do think we have a choice. We are not in debt. We are at a point at which we can be sustainable, and it could be very uncomfortable. So in the idea of conversations, what do we want? We want everything to be like 1965, and I have the pictures to prove it here, and ankle socks and short dresses and apparel, and you're laughing back there. I wish Bev was here because there's pictures of her and your siblings too, those who grew up through here. And so I don't have any skin in the game. I really, I've been at 5 different churches as well as being treasurer. I take this very spiritually, that to look and tell the story and share with you the information. Some of you who may, and just to give you, to tee up Richard, looking at our investments, I only printed a few of these in cheapness, but green is unrestricted, so we can use it for our operating budget, ideally with a draw, not going in and appropriating more money. Our peachy has special capital improvement uses for the funds. As like the roof fund is for the roof. And then we have some things like Joseph's Garden, that's super restricted, state, all sorts of laws on that. Gotta keep it. And then we have some other things that were kind of gray, how it comes, or at least to my knowledge, and that's what I own. And that's part of the transition process. I do want to thank Kate. Megan is great. So please send questions to Grace at Trinity, or Grace, treasurer at Grace, Ossining.org, or at gmail.org. And Megan, we will put in the bulletin, I think we need to do this weekly, those emails. When in doubt, get a question to Tina, and it will get to me. She knows how to reach me, I'm around her. So when in doubt, just send it to Tina. She's super, she works more hours than you know. And let's enjoy the ride, so to speak, and use our collective imagination. One last thing, as you look and have heard about the capital improvements, deferred maintenance, and the tough decisions, there's something called sunk cost, a critical thinking error. Like, why are we putting more money into something that we might do something else with? Please know my observations as the person attending vestry meetings but having no vote or skin in the game, except to figure out, make sure, tell them yes, that we can get cash for that, because it all takes cash, that we are very aware of that. We are very aware that why the car analogy, we all know the technical, or our computer equipment and software, things change over time, and it comes at some point. Karen was our Mini Cooper, had to get a different vehicle to put a car seat in it, to have Andrew in the car seat. We have different utility for our spaces, and we are looking very carefully. Is it time? It may be space. Who knows what we're doing right now? But comments, questions. I gave you the financial information. Once again, you'll see, Richard, some of our information won't be to the penny, won't agree because of different understandings. Doesn't mean any money is not there or hasn't been used. We're all grading our reports and, you know, we're not corporate. And we're all volunteers. So any comments or questions? And I did, for this year, put our property at our tax value, and that will change as well. So our asset value as far as properties is likely to change once we get a valuation of what is it worth as potentially, you know, rentable, saleable, whatever, real estate, because it's huge. Okay, up next. Thank you.
Wow. What did they say? Save the best for last. So, I am going to start with a sheet. I have this pad. All you can see it, right? Blank, exactly. We can write our own story. Think of this as a blank sheet of paper, what all of you should do tonight, and what you should start to think about is, what do you want the story for Grace to be? What do you want our legacy to be? Hal talked to earlier today about what went on, you know, down in New Orleans, and his story as a kid, not being able to swim. And we're at this transformational time, and we all know what's going on broadly in the country, and here even in our community. And so, who do we want to be as Grace? So, I challenge all of us, myself included, to go home and think about, what is our story, what is our legacy? And so you probably are asking, what does this even have to do with investments? Why is Rich even talking about this? It's one and the same. Because the story that we come up with as a congregation is going to be supported by our investments. And this is why it's so important that we have a strong investment portfolio. And so you have my investment report. I'm not going to go through all the detail. I'll leave that for you to read. I'll give you some high-level comments and thoughts, and then I'll just open it up to the floor for questions. So if you think about last year was a tremendous year as you think about the markets. The S&P 500 was up 25%. The previous year was up over 20+%. So we've had 2 years back to back where we were up over 20+%. We haven't had that since 1990. So that's to give you some perspective on how strong the market was. So if we had a really strong market last year, which was driven by strong corporate profit growth in the Federal Reserve, what do we think is going to happen in 2025? Well, I can tell you right now, I have no idea. And you hear on CNBC, Bloomberg, the market experts come out and say, oh, it's going to be great. They have no idea. Let's just be honest.
That's how to keep it afloat, by God.
But what we can say, though, is that the market, you know, odds are it's going to be probably up. And that's going to be driven by consumer spending, which is going to drive corporate profit growth. And most likely, the Fed is going to be accommodative, meaning that interest rates will stay low, and hopefully, maybe they'll even cut once or twice. Right now, market expectations is that's going to happen this year. So if that does occur, we could probably have another great year in 2025. Now, is it gonna be like what it was in 2024? Probably not. But it's probably gonna be pretty good. So, how does that then position us in our portfolio? You know, last year, we were up 19% versus our benchmark, which was up 18. So we had relative outperformance, which is good. So funds, so we have, there are two separate, let me take a step back, because I kind of did a quick jump in terms of performance. But when we think about our investments, I think about it myself in two different buckets. One is we have assets which are held at Charles Schwab, which is roughly around $2 million. And we have assets which are held at the Diocese Investment Trust, which are a part of, and that's roughly around close to about $1 million. So it's about $3 million. Now there's some small residual accounts, which Beth did note, which counts as, I think they're at JP Morgan, places, which are cash accounts, which earn money, but they're not investments per se, but we do have access to those funds. But I don't consider those into my purview of how I'm managing the assets. Now the assets at Schwab, I do manage through our investment committee. And those assets are invested in the markets, and they did well last year. But does that mean every year they're going to do well? We were up, as I said, 19%. And when you look at what we withdrew from that account, which you saw Darrell had up there 230, I think it's 240,000. It's a significant, it's a high percentage rate. I think it's based on the previous year's value, was closer to, I think, 12%. So, the good thing is that, yes, we have a high draw, but we had, if we had 19% returns and we even withdrew 12, well, guess what? We still have growth. And that's why, even when you look at the values of that account, we are still up and our assets are still growing. So, as of the end of this year, we're at $2 million. Now, those assets which are in Schwab were, let's say, quote unquote, assets that are part of the Trinity, but they're all part of Grace. But when I think that those are unrestricted, except for a small piece, which is the art fund, unrestricted assets that we basically look and utilize for the benefit of the church. On the other side are assets that are held at the diocese. And this has historically been done by St. Paul's. And the reason it was done in that way, which made prudent financial sense, was to give those assets to the diocese. And in giving them those assets to manage, they pooled it together. And in managing that way, what they were able to do is the withdrawal rate from those assets are roughly around 4%. Those assets are managed a little bit more conservatively. When I say a little, it's extremely more conservative.
They probably made 11 or 12 this year.
There you have it. They had, I think it was around, they did 12, and the benchmark for them was 13. So that gives you a comparison of, so for that, they did, I think, well, but where they had a 12, let's say it was 12%, but we're only withdrawing 4. So you were able to still grow. So now we're looking at this, what's called $3 million pool. Some of the assets, about $1 million of that is being taken out at 4. And that's, some of those are restricted and some are unrestricted.
Okay. And this is where we find that information.
That's on the one page, that's correct, that's right, that's on the one page, right? But I didn't have that on the, because I felt that was a little bit, I don't wanna confuse everyone.
It's in the main package.
It's in the main packet. I didn't want to confuse everyone with going through the details, but conceptually, you can look through that and get a sense as to how we're thinking about and how we're managing those assets. So now, we have these pools and we have the performance of those assets, which have done very well. So what is this all coming around? So why is this all important? We'll say, oh, this is great, Rich. You know, we were up 19% in our one accounts and 12% in the other. Isn't that great? Well, yes, it is. But again, it comes back to the sheet of paper. And so my goal of when I'm managing assets is to basically support the mission and our goal. And what do we want to be? And I call it, what does Grace want to be when it grows up? Let's call it what it is. So right now, we are going through a transformational. We're changing. And the message I want to leave with all of you is that we're I think in a good financial position as it relates to our investments. Yes, we got a lot of work to do. But let's not call it. And when I think about it, we got a lot of work to do. But are we financially strong? Yes, we have the assets, but we have some really tough decisions to make. But I'm confident that we can do that because we're going to come together as a church and as a community and make the decisions that are right for us. So, with that, I will pause and open it up for questions. Please, go ahead.
So, just back of the envelope of the known big expenditures right now, we're probably close to $500,000. And that's conservative between the two roofs, and I think the repairs on the windows downtown are more than we think, and I think that the remediation in both buildings is going to be significant. So that's what percentage of what we currently hold, regardless of restricted, not restricted, just bottom line cash, not cash, bottom line assets of $3 million. That's a chunk, and I guess maybe that's the question, right? Is like, how comfortable are we of taking, let's just say it's $500,000. Like, how do we feel about that, you know? And I know that there's a lot of questions about, well, we shouldn't do anything big until we know what we're doing with the buildings. But in the meantime, something that was under $5,000 to fix is now at $44,000, right? So I don't know. I don't know where the comfort level is for you as an investor, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just like I know our advisor, you know, it's like we have to make decisions of what we're doing, how long, you know, Mark's been retired for 10 years. Thank you very much. But you know, it's sort of like, you know, I look around and I'm like, $125, $250, whatever, and you know, my heart's in my throat. But then I think, okay, we have it. Are we gonna grow? And I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I don't see, you know, 100 people walking in waving 14 grand in pledges. So, you have a I mean, I'm not being fair, but if you feel like answering that.
So, one is that I have no crystal ball.
Right.
But what I would say is that I think that Buildings and Grounds and Darrell have done a great job in terms of, there's a prioritization.
Right.
That has to occur in terms of what we think is important, what do we think is not as important, and we can defer and wait. But I think this also comes down to, what is the question of, who are we and what are we going to do in terms of, it could be campuses, it could be what, I don't know.
No.
But those are decisions that we need to start to think about and to make, because think about it this way. You and Mark retires, right? And then you guys have all these huge projects or all these huge expenditures at your house, right?
Your 100-year-old house, yes.
Like your 100-year-old house. But now, you guys aren't spending 4-5%, you're spending 25-30% of your retirement.
No. I have a shoebox.
So, this is an analogy that all of us can relate to, because what would you do? You'd probably say, oh my goodness, wait, I can't, unless I'm going back out to work. But you probably don't want to go do more, because don't let Sue make you go back to work.
I wouldn't.
Don't make her go.
The work has moved on.
Don't make her make you go back to work. So unless that happens, you're probably saying, well, maybe this house may not be the right place for me.
Exactly.
I might need to downsize. I might need to tighten my belt. I might need to think about things a little bit differently. Does this not all sound the same as what
Yeah.
we might need to do?
No,
we're
fine, by the way.
Oh, no, I wasn't used, no. That was not meant to be that way. It was meant to be an example. I can use myself in that example. So I'm not retired. No, it wasn't. I exactly.
You just finished the college.
Yeah, so I'm like, that was meant to be an example. But it was
Good analogy, Rich.
It's the same thing, though. It's exactly the same. So to answer your question is that, those numbers sound daunting. They sound wow. But we have to make some major decisions based on those numbers. And what the thing is that you can't make decisions without knowing the facts. Hence why we're doing the additional evaluations, all this other stuff, to bring you the facts. And with those facts, we as a group will make the right decision. Okay. I guess I'm done. Thank you.
He's so right. I mean, think about that at home in my own house, and you guys think about it. Should I do
That was
something
bad.
I'll read up.
Okay, I guess I'm back.
After years and years and years.
So,
Damn slate roofs that I have finally finished those beautiful roofs, however. I did the last piece.
so just really quick, additional mystery reports are in your booklet.
I'm not putting that kind of money into
We need to do a designation of convention delegates.
Well, you just move on, and he did.
Beth and Cecilia have nominated themselves to our convention delegates.
Anybody else?
Anyone else want to?
If you've never done it, it's really great. You really should. It's a lot of fun to see. Anybody else want to do for next year?
They came and did it.
So we've got Cecilia and Beth again. That's helpful. That's helpful to Grace to have you both doing that.
Okay, we're in the final stretch, the last 100 yards. Bear with me. We have to do our 11.
That was one of the things that.
So here, we're at the final election report, commissioning of newly elected vestry. I know a couple of them have left already. However, I guess we need a tally. Did anyone vote online?
We need to do it, hold on. My understanding is we have to call the vote one more time. I'm checking.
Okay. Okay. So while we're doing that, we'll just make it superficial. So can we get this may not be necessary, but it's making it superficial. So can we get a motion for Beth and Cecilia to be Grace's delegates?
So moved.
So moved. Okay, so we got Richard, we got Amy seconding, all in favor?
Aye.
Everybody have it, good. And then Kate is checking with Tim.
Yes, we have to do one more time that we have a motion for the slate and that we all
Okay, great. So the slate, it's on page 2, the slate here that we've gone over. We're doing again
We can do one, what was it again, Sam? One vote we can do one vote for the slate since it's a unanimous, unopposed thing, one motion for one slate to be approved, and then it's done.
So I'm gonna take your Kate as the motion. Do we have a second of that motion? Okay, we'll go with Mark here. All in favor of the one slate
I'm sure we have.
unanimously approved?
We're done.
Any opposed?
done.
Raise your hand.
Bye.
No opposed. Do we need to check, Kate, the
No,
chat?
we're fine,
We're good.
we're good.
So how about a round of applause for the
And we will get the wording from a previous year, so we don't have to go through this guesswork next year.
All right, so one just final thing, a couple things that we just wrap up. Please feel free to take food, enjoy. Thank you to everybody who wrote the reports, because there's a lot more detail in all the reports. Thank you for everybody who did that. And we were aware that as we kind of looked at this format, we know it's an awful lot, and I will just speak for myself. I suspect I'm not the only one in the room, but it's not like drinking from a fire hose. It's like drinking from every fire hose in the block. It's a really big, overwhelming amount. And part of that is because we also have to do non-financial campus stuff. We've got more than half of it that has to do all this other stuff. And so, what we're planning on doing is having another, and were I in your shoes, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm diving under the table, but bear with me for a moment. We're gonna have another meeting in May, but it's not gonna be exactly. It's not, Gene, it's not gonna be this long, but it's gonna be focused on question and answers related to this stuff. I know that I'm very grateful, and I suspect you are as well. Daryl is going to stay on as head of buildings and grounds, and so we need to kind of, So all the great questions that are being raised about, now wait a minute, what about this and that, and investments and how that relates to that, we're going to focus this down more, because other people have said things about utilities and rental value, and the financial planning committee said, look, we just need to know overall, like, what's the overall value of Trinity and St. Paul's and all that. So we know we can't wait till like the fall to do that, or another year from now. So we're looking at breaking it down into smaller chunks. So please, what that means is start thinking about what those questions are that you want answered, because the truth is, if you've got a question, someone else probably has it, and that's what we want to start doing moving forward, is really answering all of those questions, because we're not making a decision until we feel ready to make the right decision that makes the most sense, as Richard said, based on who we want to be and what the needs are.
Yeah.
So,
And maybe that the next 5 months is time for all of us to reflect on, well, what do we see?
yeah,
What's on the horizon?
yeah.
So,
And I don't know what I mean when I say this, but I have a strong intuition that's getting stronger and stronger. Something is going to emerge, in my belief, where we're going to say, we didn't see that coming, but we need to be about that. And I don't know what that's going to be, but I just have a suspicion in this environment, we're gonna perceive a call to be something for some bodies. And then the question, like Richard asked, is what are the tools we need to do that? And a campus is just a tool. So something's gonna emerge that's gonna help us, I believe. Any final comments? How about a round of applause for y'all for sticking this out? Are we commissioning what?
We have to commission.
Those that are sorry.
Starting to go down.
Graham's left and the house is left.
That would be. If we do it.
Free now, we gotta do it later.
Should we do that? All right, so who are the three that are here? And so we're gonna meet right over here. Mary Beth. And Cecilia. Very good.
These are not the windows in your house. It's just.
We're gonna have it here. Okay. All right, so on the back page, we're just gonna ask you to go through the official. I love how it anticipates how we feel at the end, meaning the congregation being seated. The priest stands in full view of the people. The sponsors and candidates stand facing the priest. All right? Because they'll be in battle if we don't do this again. Brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, we are all baptized by the one Spirit into one body, and given gifts for a variety of ministries for the common good. Our purpose is to commission these persons in the name of God and of the congregation to a special ministry to which they are called. Are these persons, and Mary Beth and Cecilia, are these persons you are to present prepared by a commitment to Christ as Lord, by regular attendance at worship, and by the knowledge of their duties to exercise their ministry to the honor of God and the well-being of God's church?
I believe they are.
I believe they are too. The priest asked the candidates, you have been called to a ministry in this congregation. Will you, as long as you are engaged in this work, perform it with diligence?
I will.
Will you faithfully and reverently execute the duties of your ministry to the honor of God and the benefit of the members of this congregation? Why don't we all think of ourselves as sponsors? I present, and have everybody on here say, I present to you.
These persons to be a good ministry, warrior, and members of the vestry in this congregation.
The Lord gives wisdom from his mouth, come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk in integrity. I am your servant. Let us pray. O eternal God, the foundation of all wisdom and the source of all courage, enlighten with your grace the wardens and vestry of this congregation, and so rule their minds and guide their counsels, that in all things they may seek your glory and promote the mission of your church, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of God and of this congregation, I commission you as members of the vestry of the Parish of Grace Church in Ossining. O Lord, without whom our labor is lost, we beseech you to prosper all works in your church undertaken according to your holy will. Grant to your workers a pure intention, a patient faith, sufficient success on earth, and the blessedness of serving you in heaven. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. Applause for the new leadership. Thank you, everyone. And you don't have to break down tables and chairs. Anthony, blessed Anthony will be.
Are we done?
Thank you for all of you on live stream.